I am Moses. Now I stand upon Mount Nebo as the sun sinks low, and I look back upon the story of my life. At last I can see clearly every step I took was guided by the hand of God. When I was born, death waited for me at the river's edge. Pharaoh's command was cruel. Every Hebrew son must die. But God, He placed courage in my mother's trembling heart. She wrapped me in hope and set me upon the Nile. The river of death became the river of deliverance. The current that should have drowned carried me to Pharaoh's own daughter. Even when I floated between life and death, He was already writing my story. I grew up in a palace of gold, but my heart was never at peace. I was a prince, yet I was not free. One day I saw one of my people beaten, and anger burned inside me like fire. I wanted justice, but in that moment my hands struck him down. I killed a man and fled into the wilderness, a murderer, a soul wandering without rest. And still, God did not turn His face away. He found me in the silence of exile, and in the loneliness of the desert, He began to reshape me. He used my brokenness as His tool. He turned my shame into His training ground. For 40 long years, I walked through the wilderness of silence. There were people around me, yet my heart remained alone. No crown, no palace, no voice of command, only the whisper of wind and the endless sigh of sand. But even silence can speak, and in that silence, God was forming me. When I led the sheep, He was teaching me to lead His people. When I searched for water under a burning sky, He was showing me how to trust Him for life. The desert was not punishment, it was preparation. Then came the day when the fire burned in the bush but was not consumed. And out of that flame a voice called my name. Moses. When God called my name, the world around me fell silent. The desert wind stopped. Even my heartbeat seemed to vanish. For so long, I thought I was forgotten, buried by failure, lost in years of shame and silence. But in that one word, I heard mercy. I heard love. I heard purpose calling me back to life. Then His voice came again.
Do not come any closer. Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground. I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. So now go. I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt.
I fell to my knee and said, Lord, who am I? How could I stand before Pharaoh? How could I lead your people? My voice trembled. I am no leader. I am no hero. But He said to me, I will be with you. And in that moment, the desert no longer felt empty. His words lingered in the air, steady, unshaken, alive. The fire before me still burned, but it did not consume. The desert sun blazed overhead, yet His light outshone it all. I stood trembling, barefoot on holy ground, unable to speak, unable to breathe. I asked, If you are truly with me, then who can stand against me? The answer rose like thunder in my chest. No one. For a long moment I couldn't move. The fire flickered, the wind whispered, and I felt something shift inside me, not in the sky, not in the sand, but in my soul. When the flames finally dimmed and the light softened, the sun was beginning to set. The desert grew quiet again, but his words kept burning within me. That night, I still remember how the desert grew silent around me. I sat on the cooling sand long after the sunlight had disappeared, watching the sky slowly surrender its colors, from gold to crimson, and finally to deep blue. When darkness settled, the stars emerged, one by one, until the whole sky glowed with their quiet fire. When I look back on those 40 years in the desert, I won't pretend it was a holy, peaceful season. It wasn't. It was painful. It was lonely. And most days, it felt pointless. People sometimes imagine that I walked through those years with quiet strength, but that is far from the truth. I struggled every single day. There were mornings I woke up and wondered, how did my life end up here? I had once lived in a palace, and now I was a shepherd in the middle of nowhere. Some days I felt like I didn't even recognize myself. Some days I didn't want to get up at all. And the silence was the hardest part. It made me believe things that weren't true. Your life is over. You failed beyond repair. God stopped caring about you. Those thoughts didn't come once. They came again and again, until I almost believed them. But somehow, even in that emptiness, I kept living. Not because I felt strong, but because something small and quiet kept me going. A tiny hope I didn't even notice at the time. Looking back now, I see what I couldn't see then. God had been shaping me in ways I didn't understand. Not through miracles, not through loud signs, but through the slow, ordinary days that felt like nothing. Every night alone taught me honesty. Every day with the sheep taught me patience. Every moment of silence taught me to listen, not to the noise of fear, but for the gentle voice I had forgotten. So when the burning bush appeared, I didn't understand why God would call me, the man who ran away, the man who failed, the man who lived 40 years hiding. But now I know why. Because the desert didn't destroy me, it prepared me. It stripped away the pride I carried from Egypt. It softened the anger I buried. It humbled the man I used to be. It made space inside me for courage, for obedience, for God. There is something I need to tell you. Something I wish someone had told me when I was breaking inside. In the years I hid in the desert, I truly believed my life was over. Every morning felt like a reminder of what I had lost. Every night felt like a punishment for what I had done. I woke up carrying the same regrets. I went to sleep carrying the same fear. And every day, a quiet voice inside me whispered, "Nothing will ever change. You don't get a second chance." I know what it is to feel like your heart has dried up. I know what it is to feel ashamed of your past, afraid of your future, and unsure whether your life still matters at all. There were days I didn't even pray, because I thought God couldn't possibly want anything from someone like me. But here is the truth I discovered. Slowly, painfully, and only after I thought everything in me had died. God does His deepest work in the places where we feel most lost. Not when we are strong, not when we are confident, not when we have answers, but when we are tired, when we are broken, when we have nothing left to offer except the fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, our story isn't finished. The night God called my name, I wasn't brave. I wasn't ready. I hadn't healed. I was the same man who ran away 40 years earlier. But God didn't ask me to be fearless. He didn't ask me to be strong. He asked me for one thing. Not strength, not perfection, but something far more simple and far more difficult. Surrender and trust me. That single whisper became the beginning of my life again. So if you are listening now, I want you to understand something deeply. You are not alone in your desert. You may feel stuck, or ashamed of the mistakes behind you, or too wounded to imagine ever standing strong again. You may look at your life and wonder if the years you lost will ever matter. But hear me, because I learned this the hardest possible way. You are not hopeless. You are not forgotten. You are not disqualified. Even when you cannot feel Him, God sees you. He knows the battles you fight in silence. He counts the tears you never show anyone. He hears the questions you are afraid to say out loud. And the same voice that lifted me from the dust is reaching toward you now. Your story is not ending here, not in the loneliness you carry, not in the regrets that feel too heavy to speak, not in the exhaustion that keeps you awake at night. There is still a way forward, a way only God can open, a way you cannot see yet. One day, maybe sooner than you expect, you will look back on this season and realize, I didn't know it then, but God was carrying me the whole time. And the strength you thought was gone will rise again, quietly, gently, unmistakably. So breathe. Lift your eyes, even if slowly. Let your heart rest in something true. God has never left you. Not for a moment. Not once. He isn't asking you to be fearless. He isn't asking you to be perfect. He is asking you to do the bravest thing a hurting heart can do. Surrender. Lean into Him. Let Him carry what you cannot. Because the future you thought was lost is still ahead of you. The door you believed was closed has not been shut. And the God who met me in the wilderness is already waiting for you in yours. Let go. Trust Him. You are not alone, and you will never be.